So we're going to try to continue to go through the radicals operations. We've talked about adding and subtracting in a previous video, and now we're going to talk about multiplying radicals together. And I've just written here the two steps, which are pretty simple. We just multiply the terms inside the radical together by their product. We multiply the terms outside the radical together if there are any. So sometimes you're going to have entire radicals, which means you don't have to multiply the numbers outside or the terms outside if it has variables in them, but sometimes they will. So you multiply those together and then you simplify. And by simplify, we mean go back to what we were doing with mixing entire radicals. See if you can simplify the radicand at all. So all we're going to do is do some examples out of the textbook. Okay, and these are on page 284. And here are the examples. So minus 3 root 2x and then 4 root 6. So that's our first example. And we'll just do that right here. And just jump back again to make sure I write it down right. So minus 3 root 2x and then multiplied by 4 root 6. So what we're doing is we're multiplying the numbers inside the radical. And you can only do this if the radical has the same index. So you can't multiply a cube root by a square root, for example, but these are both square roots, so we multiply those and we get 12x in here. And then we multiply the numbers out front, so we get minus 12. Okay, because 4 times minus 3. So then what we do is we try to simplify. So I know that 12 can be written as 4 times 3x. And that gives me minus 2 times 12, square root of 3x. The square root of 4 is 2. So that gives me minus 24 root 3x. And that is how you multiply radicals together. Pretty simple. Division we'll talk about later. It's a little more complicated, but multiplication is pretty straightforward. You just multiply the numbers or terms if they have variables in them outside and the terms inside, and then simplify. All right, so let's do another example. The next one says 7 root 3. And then it's multiplied by 5 root 5 minus 6 root 3. So this is going to harken back to when you were multiplying polynomials, but you're going to multiply just like you did that. So you're going to multiply the first term, and then you're going to multiply the second term. Each multiplication, you're going to multiply using the steps we just said. So 7 times 5 is 35, and 3 times 5 is the square root of 15, and then 7 times 6 is 42, and 3 times 3 is 9. Then we look to simplify if we can. 15 does not have any special factors, or not special factors, it has perfect square factors. So 4 doesn't go into it, 9 doesn't go into it, and 16 is too big. So we have to leave it alone. And then the square root of 9 is 3. And you'll notice that, just as a side note, that when you multiply a square root by itself, when you square a square root, you just get the number. So root 3 times root 3 is root 3 squared, which is 3. Okay? So then we're going to have 35 root 15. Again, we can't do anything with that. And then 42 times 3, so it's 126. And that's our answer. Okay? And then if we could, we would look at, can I multiply, sorry, not multiply, but can I add or subtract these? And it goes back to what we were talking about with adding and subtracting, but they have to be like terms. So there's no root here. There is here, so you can't add them together. So multiplying is pretty easy as long as you follow the rules. So you have 8 root 2 minus 5. Next example. And you're going to multiply that by 9 root 5 plus 6 root 10. So we're going to multiply 8 root 2 by 9 root 5 first. That's 72 root 10. Then we're going to multiply that 8 root 2 by 6 root 10. So that's going to give me 6 times 8, which is 48. And, oops. go, and 48 root 20. Then we're going to go 5 times 9, so minus 45 root 5, and then minus 5 times 6, which is minus 30 root 10. Then we're going to try to simplify. 72 root 10 doesn't simplify. 48 does, well, 48 doesn't, but root 20 does. So we can go 4 times 5. And then, actually, instead of writing a plus there, I'm just going to write a minus. 45 root 5. And then minus 30 root 10. That also does not simplify. That leaves me with 72 root 10 plus, and then 2 times 48. So that's 96 root 5. And then we're going minus 45 root 5 and minus 30 root 10. And then at this point, what I'm allowed to do is I have two terms that are root 10s, so I can put them together. So this guy, 72 root 10, and then this guy, minus 30 root 10, they come together and give me 42 root 10. And then 96 minus 45 is 51. So we're going to go plus 51 root 5, because these are also like terms, that guy and that guy. All right. And then those can't be put together, so that's my final answer. So that's how you multiply there. We'll do one more example from the textbook. So the next one says 9 cube root of 2w. We'll start with that. And then it's multiplied by, let's see, cube root of 4w plus 7 cube root of 28. So cube root of 4w, whoops, w, there we go, plus 7 cube root of 28. All right, so again, we're going to multiply. The 9 gets multiplied first of all here by 1, so we leave it with 9, and then we have the cube root. And then we do 2w times 4w, that gives me 8w squared. And then plus, these guys get multiplied, so 9 times 7 is 63. And then we have the cube root, and it's of 2w times 28, so that's 56w. All right, and then what we do is we try to simplify. So I'm looking now, because it's a cube root, I'm looking for perfect cube. So 8 is a perfect cube. W squared, I can't do anything with that because it has to be at least 3, so I leave that alone. And then I'm looking for a cube root that goes into 56. So 8 again goes into 56 7 times, so I have 63 cube root of 8 times 7w, so that equals 9 times 2 now, because the cube root of 8 is 2, so that's 18 cube root of w squared, and then plus 63 times 2 is 126, and it's the cube root of 7w, and then you're done. You can't do any more with that. So that's how you multiply them together, and I'm going to stop with that. We're going to talk about division in another video, and you can do more out of your textbook. If you look at the bottom of these pages, generally after the examples, you'll see as a pattern that you end up with some to do on your own. So there's some your turn questions on page 285, and I would encourage you to do those.